All right, we're gonna take a second. Can everyone stand up? We've all been sitting here listening to me and Nick and Andrea. All right, and some of you may know I like yoga, so put your hands together. All right, do it one more time. Keep going. Oh my gosh, my first standing ovation. This is great, thank you so much. No. All right, ready to get started with our newest member of the boy band, Nick Hoppe here.
So I'll introduce myself. I know you've already met Bree. I'm Nick Hoppe. I'm director of our customer support department. As Adam mentioned, I've met with a lot of you, worked with a lot of you, and help when we finish our implementation. And so there's a lot of fun in customer support, but there's also some nervousness around customer support. So I've been here, as Adam said, almost 5 years. I've implemented some of you, and I've supported a lot of you. So I'm happy to be up here and to talk about what happens after implementation with Bree.
Yes, and my previous experience, didn't get to introduce myself earlier, but is with packaging and supply chain. So a lot of people in this room are in packaging and supply chain. So I like to think when I talk to you guys about implementation, I've now been here for about 7 years. So I know a lot about Specright, but I also have a little bit of knowledge in those industries. And so I can kind of bring it all together to help you guys out.
Cool. One big slide. We have over 160 customers that we call live. So that would mean that they are implemented to the facet that they are using the system, managing their specs. Users are entering the system daily, weekly, monthly. But over 50% of those are coming back to our services departments for enhancements or improvements, and that was just last year. It's a pretty high metric for our software and our environments, but that shows you how often we look for improvement. It's always continuous improvement. How can we're change makers, change movers, so we're happy to implement something, but we're always looking for that improvement. And so we want to talk about how that you can leverage that, and that's what we're going to go over today. But I think it's really nice to know that those of you that aren't reaching out or don't know where to go or how to implement these new improvements, everybody's doing it. I left yesterday with many opportunities for improvement. So we want you to know we're here for you, and we want to guide you through what's the best process for you and your team and how to partner with us to make sure that we're continuously improving your environment.
Yeah, and we're always like ready when someone comes back for an enhancement, but we wanted to tell everyone today, like, this is a good way to do it, right? And so that's what we want to go through today. So first things first, before we can enhance anything, we got to launch. Again, this is the second time now, change management, just pretend that word doesn't exist. But really the first thing is to get to launch, right? And so what we wanted to talk about is how do you get a successful launch where then you can go into enhancements and support and things like that. And so really important thing, which we just talked about with Cindy and Andrea, is emphasizing business user buy-in during UAT. I can't tell you how many times we have implemented something and then it actually goes to 50, 60, 70 users, and we implemented it with 4. And that 60 or 70 are like, wait, what did you do with all of this? Where's my ... Where's something that they do daily that the 4 people didn't think about? And so really getting business users in, and then highlighting key goals and metrics then and now. So like, what is your pain point? This is how we're gonna help you, right? Everyone loves a big old 50% on the screen that says, I'm gonna get 50% of my time back. And those are really fun things to find, and we can help you figure out what those metrics are. The next is user engagement. So it kind of goes with that one that I highlighted on the previous one, so it must be very important. But training the trainer, you have champions, people that sat there and developed it with us. They know why we built it the way we built it because they helped us decide these things. And so training them is a really great thing to have user engagement because they are the power users for internal processes and feedback. So when somebody turns to the person next to them and like, why did we do it like this? That person knows, they're in it, they can answer that question. You guys aren't coming back to the Specright team and saying, why did we build it like this? It's a lot cleaner and it feels better and more supportive when the people around you know why we built it the way we built it. And then very lastly, measure success. So again, taking those things that you highlighted, the big 50% on the screen, and making them reportable. How do you show people we're giving you 50% of your time back? We need to talk about it more often because then it feels a lot better. And then of course, sharing success stories. So data tells a story. I'm an okay storyteller, but Adam Armstrong is a fantastic storyteller. But talking about those things feels good for everyone. It feels good for the people that implemented it. It feels good for the people on the receiving end of it. So really would like to talk about sharing success stories. Share them with us. Laura Foti would love to talk to you all about your success with Specright. All right, so then we launch, right? This is super exciting. One really important thing I want to emphasize here is those graphs on the right. We track our user logins just to make sure, customer health and all of that fun stuff. But what you see is kind of what I was just referencing, is the user count's really low for a while, right? We're building Specright. We have a couple people logging in and testing. We can hopefully get a couple more in for UAT to get really good feedback. But then there's a really super sudden spike. you went live, you launched, all of these users are using it. These are two really big examples, right? BASF and Caterpillar both have, one has 400 users, one has 800 users that are daily active logins, which is a lot of people. But those people want to feel supported, and we want them to feel supported. And I think that's such an important thing. 800 people using a system, that's a lot of people that could say, I don't really like how this is going. So when we launch you, right, we're giving user stories, requirements, and process flows, all the documentation we do while we're working with you. And then we put you into a support model. And so that's actually where that little peak is on the graph, is during hypercare, right? We're getting you live, your users are going into the system. So you keep this implementation team on your project because we have been in it with you too. We want to make sure you're successful. So that hypercare period is really where things can maybe feel a little off, but we want to really make sure you feel supported during those times because there's so many new people asking so many different questions than maybe we asked for a couple months during implementation.
Yeah. And that hypercare is a good time to get used to the support model. You spend a lot of time in the implementation model. It's obviously a little different, so it's that time to kind of bridge the gap. You still have your partners, but then you want to enter the system. How are we tracking your requests? What requests are coming in? These are all data points we keep internally, so you can see that. And these graphs show that it's not 2 weeks, this is months. So those user counts jump quickly, but they come over months, not 2 weeks. So you want to familiarize yourself with your support model, what the offerings are, how we can support you, but also know that when you hit that max user count, you're gonna get a lot more requests that you would have in those first 2 weeks or in the UAT portion. So it's a good time to familiarize yourself with that support model, the entry level, how to get in. You can see in the bottom right some of the resources we have, and I could ask you all to raise your hand if you've been to that site before, and I'm sure it's not that high, but making sure that we have these resources, how to submit a case, what release notes, what admin guides we have. These are all valuable things to do in that 2 weeks, and making sure that we're exercising that and sharing that between our users is extremely important.
So now what? The fun part. All right, choose your next adventure. I'm a big reader. I read like 60 books a year. I haven't read a Choose Your Next Adventure novel in a long time, but I think maybe I should go revisit that. A couple options here, right? And I think there probably are more options involved, but these are the three we really want to guide you guys to. So a phased implementation, getting back in with your implementation team that you just worked with to continue to improve, to do the next phase. Maybe you're going to another module or another group of people. The other options I will defer to Nick because they are handled by his team.
We actually saw a lot of good examples of phased implementations yesterday and then even today. And then there's also enhancements. And I think and support. And I think there's always going to be some questions around what's a phased implementation, what's an enhancement, and what's support. But we're here to partner with you for that. And we'll go through some of these three adventures with you. But enhancements, I mean, they come very quickly. I can't tell you how many implementations we've had where immediately we turn into the enhancement form. We've had go lives that went into a bug-heavy performance, but still wanted enhancements at the same time. So again, I've mentioned it, we're all change makers. It doesn't stop the moment we implement Specright. We say, there's an opportunity for us to improve. So that's where that enhancement level comes in. And how do we prioritize, how do we communicate, and how do we implement those successfully is also important because it doesn't stop. There's always opportunity for improvement. And then support and maintenance, who's managing that, who's got control, who's going in the background, who's providing me the information to make sure that the bug that I've reported is handled, being worked on, and being fixed. So those are all different areas we'll go over.
Perfect. So we'll start with phased implementation, which typically comes through my team. You've seen Andrea talk today. You've seen Matt talk today. You may have worked with them before. They're on my team. So the phased implementation, there's a couple different phases I just want to touch on, right? There's pre-planning. What do you want to tackle first? Is the team ready to engage? Is there something that can be a fast follower or doesn't need to be in the future? One I really want to highlight there, or are there any critical business needs? We heard Come in Stock yesterday, and I helped them do their launch. And so, as we know, their system is cutting off on February 11th because Todd very nicely shared that with us. So we had to launch while we were all in Austin. So wouldn't recommend that. But Harsha, we're all excited. They haven't had a lot of issues. Actually, they've had no issues. So we've had a very successful launch in Austin. We're here to celebrate. But that's a critical business need, right? Like they were gonna have to pay a whole other year of their systems if they didn't launch by February 11th. And we need to make sure we got out 2 weeks before that. So if anything happened, we were ready for it. And then is the team ready to engage, right? Are we going to the quality team? Are we working with a QMS or moving a QMS into Specright? Are they ready? Are they here? Like, are they prepared? Do they know it's gonna take some of their bandwidth? And then, of course, the phase kickoff, identifying the champions, and the developing the success criteria, user stories, and requirements, and things like that, right? So what are you actually looking to achieve? What will success look like for this new team or this new phase? So important. And then, of course, build and deploy. We already talked about these three things previously because they're so important, because a phased implementation, the launch of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is just important as the first launch, right? It's going to new users. There's new things being released. You still need to educate your users and get excited. And then put it on repeat. So go back to choose your next adventure. Maybe you're going to do another phase, phase 1, 2, 3, et cetera. As you can see down there, a super common phased approach we see is packaging bombs, and then bomb automation, and then, of course, reports that come from that. But then they're like, okay, now we have our packaging and our bombs, now we're ready for product, or we're ready for quality, or we're ready to do our integrations. And we love integrations, single source of truth. That's the best way to get there, right?
All right, enhancements. So enhancements would be a little bit similar to the phase, but we're looking at a more small scale. We're not launching new modules. We're probably not going to launch this to new users. It's more about improving the user experience of our existing users. But you still kind of want a champion. You still want someone that knows the business, is collecting the data from your users and saying this is what they're asking for. So how do you get prepared for that? Do you want to just throw enhancement out after enhancement out, or do you want to categorize them, stack rank them? What's your preferred method? And I think that's always important to look at. And so I always love a good stack rank. What's going to provide the most value for the least investment? What's business critical? It's still a similar theme, but it's a little bit more simple. There's not as much discovery, planning, phasing. You can kind of come to us and let us know this is what we're planning to do, what's our cost, what's our turnaround time, and it's a lot less project management and more focused on improving that. We also have teams that are entire timeline is built in improving enhancements. They're in live orgs. So the enhancement side of things is nice because all of their time is spent improving on an existing org instead of building. So the testing phase and the quality that they perform in, it's about releasing that enhancement without any hiccups, any bugs that come out of that, and that's their main focus. So to have an entire team dedicated to improving an existing org versus spinning up and managing a new org really allows you to know that those resources are designed to make sure that you don't have new bugs based on your enhancements. No reason to add problems. So some common requests you can see there. Approval process is always a fun one. You know, with 5 people in testing, it takes 1 day to flip an approval process. But if you go step 1, it could take 5 days, and all of a sudden it's not as fast. So how do we improve on that? And we're here to help you with solutions as well as listen to your users to say what would they prefer is better. And there's always opportunities for small improvements. So think of those, look for those, listen to your users, gather that data, put them into a list, a parking lot, stack rank them, and come to us so that we can help you solve. Sometimes 3 different enhancements can be solved with 1 minor change, and so sometimes it's good to gather as many as possible. But we're here for that. We have a team dedicated to that, and they'll help you navigate how to perform the work as well as implement it and help testing with your users. So. Yay, support. Everybody's favorite is customer support. Support's tough because a lot of different models out here. We just talked about 800 monthly logins. Some of you are probably going, I don't have 800 users. That's not my model. And it's hard to mirror that. And it's also hard to say, well, what is support? What is enhancements? I just listened to Nick talk about enhancements. I'm still not sure. That's common, and I want you guys to reach out to your account representatives, reach out to the support team. But I do want you to know that support doesn't mean I have a bug. You can reach out to support with questions. You can reach out to support for references. That's important that you know that. We're happy to help in that capacity. Support is truly supporting you through your journey, as well as bug requests. I do speak to support requests. It's the majority of what we do, but I do want to at least emphasize that you can lean on support for anything you need. But for your plan, you want to look at what you're doing. If you have 1,600 users, you should think about the plan and manage 1,600 users. If you have 5 power users that can do anything in the system and they're using automation heavily, how do I support that? How critical is it if I lose the action to perform this? How quickly do I need to respond? All the questions you would ask yourself for any SaaS software, you should apply to this. And then reach out to your account representative, reach out to me. How do we tailor make that for you? But here's a little list of what we see in support. And when I say user access, I don't say user creation. Access, security, and apparently there's an admin session coming up soon. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but there's this admin session, but the security and permissions is extremely important. And we get a lot of requests on, I can't do this, I can't see this. And so we want to make sure we partner with you guys so that you have the information, but you can come to us and we can help you through that. UI management, user interface management, automation management. So the 2 big ones are using the system. So make sure you're reaching out to us Make sure that when you look at your system, if you've built it to be very complex, if you're in many modules, make sure the support system works for you. Oh, the last one, sorry, I missed that. Was the 4 Ws. When you are submitting a request, let's say you do get a bug, and we'll talk about this more, the who, what, where, when, which user, what action, which object, when did it happen. I mean, as you know, everything you do is getting tracked in some capacity of what you've made changes to, or if you've logged in, where you entered. So we can go get that information and try to recreate it, but messages of, Specright's not working. That's great, I'll start working on it. But if you were able to say, Nick, I tried to click on this button on this record and it's supposed to do this and it didn't do it and I did it just 10 minutes ago, I've already moved past first triage stage. I've already started a solution mine. So these are great bits of information and things you can think about with whoever's your direct relationship with the support team or Specright team or your users, training them to help you. I'm sure Cindy will agree with me in that, and I'm sure some of the other users will know that the more information we have, a screenshot with the URL gives me just as much information than like with a timestamp and a URL. I almost don't need anything else. So there's so much value to giving more information. We're never going to be upset. So if you can, though, anything you can give that helps us really find that moment in time of what happened is very valuable. So thank you guys for your support there.
Yeah, definitely help us help you. Sometimes you'll get Nick on the receiving end of your support@specright.com email. His usually come with like smiley faces and emojis. So you got him when there's a lot of happy faces. And if you didn't send the URL, it might be a crying face.
No.
You would never. So I asked Nick to add a customer anecdote, and I think he added a picture instead. No, but so we just talked about a phased implementation, right? I don't want to go through the whole story again, but that really is the exact example of a phased implementation. We did something, we launched it, it was successful. They were in support, they emailed support like once a year because they had a really well-running system and they had a minimal amount of users, but then we kicked off with the next group with Casey and are kicking to a whole new team of 10 people. And so super exciting, but also success story, right? They just relaunched with their packaging group in December, and we're gonna go again. So we're at phase 3, which is really fun.
Yeah, and I'll do just one verbally. Kenvue would be a good one. They're a subsidy of Johnson & Johnson. And they launched and they quickly learned that the business users probably weren't ready for that launch and found a good amount of bugs. We had a real swarm moment where we were able to focus in on how are we fixing this? Why are you seeing these errors? So the UAT from that side didn't go as planned. 2-3 weeks in, we were back to running smoothly, no tickets, no bugs, and then they went directly into enhancement mode. So, it can go that quickly. You can see these bugs, but immediately then the users flip from this doesn't work to we love it, let's move forward with making these changes, we can do more with it. And so that's what we're here for. Those 3 models, these 3 adventures, if you will, are all, you can take them all at the same time if you'd like, and they're all gonna have a benefit to you.
And that's all we have for y'all.